Hi, welcome to the Let It Fly Show, a unique version of Let It Fly Show. As you can tell, next to me, no Josh Jones, who is out with babysitter issues, which happens when you have a baby or a toddler. Happens quite a bit. And our guest this week was supposed to be Tory Pittman from Omaha Central, the soon-to-be five-star safety / wide receiver, who's committed to Nebraska in the 2027 class, the highest-rated safety on most of the evaluations in the 2027 class. But I got a call about 10 minutes before we got started and said that Tory had gotten cold feet and wasn't going to do the podcast. So you're stuck with me. This is Let It Fly Show. We are inside of the Let It Fly Sports Bar in the Capital District. As you know, great specials all week long. And this week, Saturday night, the fight, the big fight, the fight that we've all been waiting for, the fight that determines really and truly the best boxer in the 21st century, maybe second best. I mean, if you go Mayweather being one, maybe Usyk is two, and then there's a debate over Bud Crawford, who is undefeated. He's beaten everybody who's been in front of him, and Canelo Alvarez, right? It's kind of a debate there for that third spot. Of course, if Bud wins, he becomes the first male fighter to unify 3 weight divisions. If Canelo wins, you know, it doesn't mean as much for Canelo. He's already a Hall of Famer. Bud's already a Hall of Famer. Canelo's already had some really big fights. You know, he had 3 fights against Triple G, 2 of which were close. Many people thought that Triple G beat Canelo in the first fight. So I don't know if it's as important. It's still a big deal. It's a big deal money-wise. I think 75% of the purse, if I read that right, is going towards Canelo Alvarez. But that is Saturday night. You can be right here inside the Let It Fly Sports Bar, either in the Capital District, out west, or the new location, which is in La Vista as well, and join all of your friends, all of the Bud Crawford supporters. I was in here when Bud won his big fight, and I'll tell you, this place was packed. The mezzanine is what they call the second level, and people were just up against the rail. I actually was standing in the back in front of one of the TVs near the stairs, and that's where I watched the fight. And it was incredible in here. It was rocking. Everybody was just all fired up. You know, early knockdown by Bud. All of a sudden, you're in the 7th or 8th round, and almost you're saying to yourself, maybe they need to stop this, because Bud is absolutely dominating Errol Spence. And obviously they didn't, but Bud stopped it himself. And to be around that many people watching that fight at one time, I suggest coming out to Let It Fly Sports Bar, either here in the Capital District or one of the other 2 locations, and watching it with friends, because it makes it even more. If you can't be in Vegas, if you can't be at the big Roomba where the Raiders play, if you can't be there, be at a place like Let It Fly Sports Bar and check it out. We will preview that fight coming up in a little bit. I want to remind you again about all the specials, whether it's Monday through Friday. You come up here, you have a great special. One of my favorites is Dollar Wing Wednesday, which is great. You have great wings, great flavors, added a couple new flavors, in fact. I know a lot of people love the lemon pepper. I like a little bit spicier, a little hotter, but that's one of the things they have. And of course, they have a really interesting deal where you come here on a Thursday, which is when we're taping, and they have steak and frites. And this is a great sirloin. It's delicious, seasoned well, cooked very well, however you want it, from rare to, God forbid, well done. And you can get it like that, and you get French fries along with it as well. It's a great deal on Thursday nights. And of course, we got happy hour. You got the regular happy hour, which is like 3 to 6, and then the reverse happy hour, which is like 10 to 1. So you got the reverse happy hour as well. On this week's show, I mentioned we were hoping to have Tory Pittman, the safety from Omaha Central. But again, last minute, got a little nervous. They have a big game tomorrow. Well, when you watch this, it'll be Tuesday. Omaha Central coming in, to Omaha Central welcoming in Omaha North. And the last time this game happened at Central was 2 years ago. They made the mistake of putting on a Thursday night. And that meant there was only one show in town. So you had this long-time rivalry, 2 teams that have been playing each other, that not necessarily love each other, playing each other on a Thursday night when nothing else was on. It was the TV game, but it was packed. And they had to shut the gates and you had some fights outside, and it got out of hand. And so I know Omaha Central is planning ahead in case you get those kind of numbers again. They're gonna close the gates right before halftime, so no one else can go in. So and it's gonna probably sell out. So if you want to come and check it out, please show up and check that out. It'll be outstanding. It's gonna be a great game. Omaha Central against Omaha North. I don't know the last time Central beat North. I know that they haven't beaten them since my kids have been in school, which is since 2020. I don't think they beat them in 17, 18, or 19 that I remember. So I'm not sure when the last time it is, but it's been a while. And I know Omaha Central feels that this is the team to be able to get that done. And so that's going to be a fun matchup as well. Just a couple blocks from here. That should be really fun. Also want to remind you, our presenting sponsor, as always, Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy no matter what you're doing, whether you're watching boxing on Saturday night, you're leaving or going to the Central Omaha North, Omaha Central game, or how about, Saturday morning? I'm not sure what the time range is for when you start drinking yourself, but Nebraska comes on at 11 o'clock. So do what you need to do to take care of business. Before we get to breaking down the fight and the football game, we're going to go through headlines. And our first headline is what Nebraska did last week, taking care of Akron. It was an incredible performance. Several records set. You had the best performance by Emmett Johnson, what he did on the ground. You had the 47-yard run for touchdown to opening the scoring, longest run of his career. You had 20 straight completions from the end of the Cincinnati game through the beginning of the Akron game by Dylan Raiola. So you had that going on. You also had a game where the last time Nebraska shut somebody out goes all the way back to 2009, playing Arizona in the Holiday Bowl. Nebraska got that shutout. Nick Foles was one of the quarterbacks for Arizona. And just so many things happened in that game. And I'm not sure Nebraska can play as good as they played, but they get Houston Christian this week. You probably saw that on the schedule, that Nebraska was playing Houston Christian. You said to yourself, who? It is Houston Baptist, so maybe you know them by that name. Not really as a football team, but there was a period for about 2 or 3 years where they were pretty good at baseball. And Houston Baptist actually won the then Southland Conference and then advanced to the college ball playoff. They advanced to the NCAA baseball tournament. And so they had a couple years where they were pretty good at that. But for the most part, this is a team, a school that's been playing in Division I since basically trying to get in 2014, going through that whole process of probation and everything. And so it's expected. No line on the game yet. Won't be out till Saturday morning, but it's expected Nebraska takes care of business. The Huskies come in 1-1. First week, just absolutely destroyed Arkansas Baptist, a Division II school. And then last week played Eastern Kentucky, who's a pretty good team, and lost 20-10 in that game, but showed that their defense is certainly capable. So we'll break that down after we finish going through headlines. The other headlines is some really big games this week. Some coming off of look-ahead performances. Some are ones that are matches we've been waiting for during the offseason when you target this weekend. But we start off with Florida and LSU. Florida, of course, falls to South Florida. And right now, their coach, the Gator program in general, is a mess. It's one thing to lose a game like Florida losing to LSU or an Arkansas, or, the bigger schools like a Georgia or an Alabama. But when you fall to an in-state school like South Florida, all of a sudden your fan base is losing their mind. They already were upset. Remember, Florida wasn't ranked, losing to a ranked South Florida team. And now you've got a situation where you play LSU, and the rest of the schedule is not easy. It's one of the toughest schedules in the country that Florida has. And if they lose this week to LSU, I don't even know if they keep their coach all the way through. I don't know. And I'm not saying his name. I don't say his name. Was not a fan of his when he was at Lafayette. Not a fan of him in general. He's a Louisiana native. We've disowned him. Not a fan. And so I have no problem at all with South Florida beating them. I hope LSU takes them behind the woodshed as well. But we'll see how that game goes. The other big ones are Georgia, number 6 Georgia, playing number 15 Tennessee. Tennessee hasn't beaten Georgia in a long time. And I think I have this right. The last last 4 times Georgia and Tennessee have played at Georgia, the margin of victory has been like 34. So it hasn't been close. Florida's been blowing them out. Both teams are 2-0. Georgia is the favorite by only like 4.5, but that should be a good one. I mentioned South Florida earlier. South Florida has had a tough schedule, right? They're sitting now at number 18. They put number 5 Miami. And if South Florida can somehow get through this and beat Miami, which I don't think they will. Miami's a big favorite. But I think, South Florida's already kind of said what they can do by beating Florida. But if they can stay with Miami, what a heck of a season for South Florida as they're in the AAU conference. And then the other one, another battle of ranked teams, Texas A&M, which is number 16, and Notre Dame, which is number 8. Notre Dame is in a situation where if they were to lose this game, their season in terms of getting to the college ball playoff could be over. It could. These are 2 of the toughest teams on their schedule. Started, right? So they already got the strength of schedule going. And from here, it kind of drops off a little bit. So if you lose to 2 of the top teams you played, right? All of a sudden you're looking down the road and you're like, what do we have to play for? You can't win a conference because you're not in a conference. If you don't make the playoff, that spot is set there for you, right? Everybody expects Notre Dame to be in that spot. And sitting, even at 10-2, they might get in. But with the rest of the schedule, if they lose another game, it's over for them, right? They're not getting at 9-3. So that's a huge game. A&M, Notre Dame, really tight line. I've been going back and forth with this one. I think Notre Dame, had a bye week while A&M had to play. It wasn't a great opponent. But Notre Dame had the bye week after the opening game. And they're sitting there in a situation now where A&M has a mobile quarterback. A&M has a lot of skill. A&M went out into the portal, brought a lot of people in, along with some really good recruiting classes over the last couple of years, against a Notre Dame team that's got a starter at quarterback, C.J. Carr, who I don't think is a great quarterback. Can they take care of business? I don't know. That's up in the air. I haven't seen A&M win a game like this in a very long time. They did a great job beating LSU last year, but LSU was kind of falling off at the end of the year. But a game like this, I have not seen them win. We also see what happens in this one. I kind of lean toward Notre Dame because they had the week off. They had the week to get everything prepared, to prepare for a very mobile quarterback like A&M has. So I think overall, I would probably take Notre Dame if it was me. And I mentioned the high school games this week. I already mentioned Omaha Central and Omaha North, which are going to be it's going to be a great matchup. It really is. Millard West plays Omaha Westside, which should be a good matchup, which would be fun. And then the number 1 team in the state in Class A travels out to Kearney. Now, obviously, Millard South is the better team. But people will tell you that have been involved with high school football, whether they've coached it or they've played it, they've reffed it, whatever else, that trip out to Kearney, some crazy things will happen. Some truly crazy things will happen. So they got to go out there and play Kearney. I'm sure Millard West, as dominant as they are, as talented as they are, with all of the Division I prospects they have, I'm sure they'll take care of business. But still, a lot of pressure. Get on that bus riding and go the whatever amount of time, 3 hours, I guess, out to Kearney, and take on Kearney to see how that goes. I mentioned that we were supposed to have Tory Pittman on. He couldn't make it because he kind of had cold feet, but hopefully later in the season. I mean, when you're close to being, because he will be, a 5-star once all of the other evaluations come in, and be ranked either 1 or 2 best safety in the country, we got to eventually get him on. So we'll talk to him and get that straightened out. Obviously, the big story of this weekend, because Nebraska's playing Houston Christian, a team that no one expects them to lose to, a team that when Saturday morning rolls around will probably be about a 42.5-point underdog, maybe more than that. I went through and I looked at some of the numbers based off of what their ranking was in the power ranking and some other teams that are around them and what their number was when the FCS team was playing a Power 4 team. And it's somewhere between 40 and 50. So at 44.5, 42, something like that. But Nebraska will be a big favorite. So that's obviously not the big story. In 2 weeks, the Michigan game would be the big story. But the big story is Bud Crawford taking on Canelo Alvarez, Saul Canelo Alvarez, and taking him on. And the battle for the pound-for-pound best fighter. What Usyk has done as a heavyweight, he's probably sitting there and won't be derailed. But if Bud, again, can be a 3-time unifier of a division, if he can go up to, 168 from where he was. Remember, at one time he was 130. We saw him at 130. We saw him at 135, at 140, 147. But to see him at 168 would be incredibly impressive. And we've seen guys, little men, go up, right? You saw Roy Jones go up and beat Ruiz for the heavyweight title. We've seen Mayweather go up and challenge bigger guys and win fights. You've seen a lot of smaller guys do it. And I think Bud has 3 things that really define his style as a fighter that makes this plausible. That he could go into Vegas, where Canelo is incredibly popular, and it will be very hard to get a decision. But he's got 3 things I think that can make this work. One is that he's got a fight computer in his head. You can see it all the way from when he was, when he was fighting in Golden Gloves. He had that computer where he would download what you were doing, and within a very short period of time, he was countering it and making you look bad, right? So that's the number one thing, the fight computer. 2, it's a little underrated, or a little overrated, I should say, talking about the weight difference. Because Bud worked to stay at that lower weight, right? Bud walked around probably 165, something like that. So it's not that big of a difference. He just had to add that muscle on, right, from what he had, and kind of just put the weight on slowly. And he had a long time to do it. This fight was made, or pretty much known that it would be made, for a long time, for like 6 months. So Bud's had the time to be able to gradually put this weight on and get to the look that he is in right now. So I think there's a little bit overrated in terms of the weight. Because I know Canelo is a true, super heavy, super welterweight, or he fought light heavy at one point at 175. He's done all of that. But still, when you look at him at 168 and you say to yourself, can Bud be equal in size to him? Watch any of the video. Watch the video where they are standing next to each other and the height is about the same. The shoulders are about the same. Isn't that big of a difference? It reminds me of the story of when Muhammad Ali fought Sonny Liston the first time. And Sonny Liston would wear a robe with towels on his shoulders and the robe over it. So it made Sonny look like he was a monster, like he was Frankenstein. Comes into the ring, and you really hadn't seen the two fighters because Ali went crazy the day of the weigh-in, and his blood pressure went way up, and because of that, you really didn't see them together. Since Liston comes in the ring, takes off the robe, the towels come out. Ali walks up to him, and you're like, oh my goodness. Ali is the same size or maybe bigger than Sonny Liston. I think that's exactly what you're going to see when the two guys are standing in the ring. You're not going to think to yourself, oh my God, Canelo Alvarez is so much bigger than Bud Crawford is. So that's the second thing. And the third thing is speed, counterpunching, and that straight right hand. Those are one thing. Canelo is a bit of a lumberer. Doesn't have quick feet. Now, when he sets them, he throws heavy blows. But when you look at him, he's pretty stiff. This is not a guy who's going to make you miss. This is not a guy who's going to outquick you. This isn't a guy who's going to be able to bounce around the ring, make you work, tire you. It's not him. You know where he is. But on the other hand, even though he has gone up in weight, still has good speed, still has very good quickness, and you would assume, because he does most times, Bud's going to come out as a southpaw. Now, we talk a lot about the jab for orthodox fighters, right? It's the straight right hand. Straight right hand. So you think of it as a jab, but when it comes over as a straight right hand, it's a whole different punch. And if you look at the people who landed straight right hands or right hands against him, Golovkin, Triple G did. multiple fighters, even early in the fight, when he was fighting, oh my God, I just forgot his name, the other heavyweight. When he was fighting Kovalev. Through the first 6 rounds, obviously before Kovalev, the first fight got knocked out, Kovalev was landing some of those. You saw guys throughout Canelo's history landing that hand. I know Bud can land, seen him do it many times. Jab, over, straight right hand. I think that's going to be a difference in the fight. If I was betting it, which I am, I would certainly take the best bet I think that I've seen so far out there was you can take Bud by either decision/points or technical decision. That's where if he gets stopped because of a cut or something like that. So you can take those two things. I saw him at plus 210. Just recently, I was checking out some of the odds. Method of victory. This was on FanDuel. Method of victory, plus 190 for Crawford to win by points or decision. You can get, by the way, a draw. We were talking about this, me and Caleb, because sometimes with these kind of fights, you will get a situation where, I'm not saying it's fixed, but it's easy for the judges to score this thing pretty even, and then all of a sudden you get another fight, right? Because you get a draw. Excuse me, the draw is plus 1,300 if you want to just sprinkle a little bit on the draw. If you are a round bettor, which is what I did in the last couple of fights that Bud did, because I always expect him to go either him finish somebody between 9 and 11 or go to a decision. You can get Bud Crawford at from rounds, I think it's rounds 8 through 10. Oh, no, 9 through 11. You can get Bud Crawford at a really nice number. And that number is, because my computer's moving slowly, you can get Bud, if winning in round 11 is plus 7,500. So that's 75 to 1. Terrence Crawford to win the round, to fight in round 10 is plus 6,500. So you can, again, 65 to 1 for him to win in 10, 75 to 1 for him to win in 11, if you want to sprinkle a little bit on there. And if he was going to stop him in the 12th round, which I think this thing goes to decision, that is 80 to 1 for Bud to do that. So you can work on it that way. I don't see, because as much as Canelo has obviously lost some fights, you know, most famously losing to Mayweather when he was young and Mayweather dominated him, or Bivol when he lost to him when he went up to 175. He really hasn't gotten really hurt. So I don't know if Bud could stop him. But I haven't seen Bud get stopped because he's undefeated. Seen him get hit a couple times in body shots. Maybe that slowed him down a little bit. I just don't see this fight not going the distance. Unless somebody gets cut. I think this thing goes to the judges. And I hope that the judges aren't biased because it's in Vegas and Alvarez is the bigger name. I hope they're not. But as I said earlier, this fight means so much, especially for Bud. There's all the people that talk about how Bud hasn't fought anybody. What's his big fight? You know, they're like, well, when he fought this guy, he wasn't this. Or when he fought this guy, he wasn't this. All Bud has done, for the most part, is not only win those fights, but win the majority of the rounds. And that's all you can ask a fighter to do. You know? If you're fighting somebody and he decided to fight you, you decided to fight him, and you go out there and you win 9, 10, 11 rounds, what more do you want somebody to do? And that's what Bud has done and has taken care of business. This gives him the marquee name because people talk about Errol Spence being in the car wreck and all that stuff. And I mean, Bud would have dominated him before the car wreck any other time. They could have fought on the moon and he would have dominated him. And he knew that too because he tried to make that fight for years. But if he can beat Canelo Alvarez, all of a sudden you put that one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the win column for Bud. And, of course, I mentioned the unification of those 3 weight classes. All of a sudden, we're talking about one of the top, at least in the 21st century, as I mentioned, one of the top 3 fighters, if not 2 fighters. And it's hard to see, now to get past Mayweather is difficult for anybody for his course of his career. And what Usyk has done, it's hard to get past him. So maybe third, you put Bud as number 3 in the 21st century, maybe. And then obviously here in Nebraska, when you start listing all the great athletes from the state of Nebraska, at one point Bud was in the 30s, and we've talked before, can Bud be above the top 3? You know? Bob Gibson obviously is up there. Gale Sayers is up there. Johnny Rogers has been up there. If Bud does these things and wins that fight, where do you put him as one of the greatest athletes born in Nebraska? I don't know. It's a heck of a debate, and but that's why it's a big fight. That's why it means so much to Bud, and how it means so much to the state of Nebraska and the city of Omaha. You know, Bud's probably going to go out there in a Nebraska hat, or there'll be something on him, red for Nebraska, I'm sure. I know all of the Nebraska players and coaches, after the game at 11 o'clock when it's done and they've all taken their saunas or whatever they do after the game, they're all going to be watching it on the giant screen TV over at the complex. It's going to be a huge event for this state and a huge event for Bud Crawford. And I can't wait for it. I can't wait. I was going to come here, but we got my mom's in town, and so we're actually going to go by some friend's house and a little bit smaller venue and watch it there with them. And so I can't wait for it. As I've said, I believe Bud wins the fight by decision. I think he wins 7-5, 7 rounds to 5, maybe 8 rounds to 4. The first 3 rounds are going to be interesting because both Bud and Alvarez have both started slowly over their career as they measure people. There have been fights that Canelo Alvarez has been in where he landed 0 punches in the first round. And we know how Bud can be a slow starter. It'd be interesting to see if somebody tries to go out a little bit faster and try to steal the first round or the second round. It would be interesting to see how that goes. But I think Bud wins it. And I think he is the first male fighter to unify 3 weight classes, which is incredible, and becomes, if not the pound for pound, but next to pound for pound fighter right now on the planet. Surefire Hall of Famer already, one of the greatest boxers of all time already. But like Matt Rule said about him, you could just say okay and be satisfied, or you can challenge yourself. And there's nothing like doing hard things to satisfy. And this is a hard thing. This is something he didn't have to do, but he chose to do it because he wants to do the hard things so he can be listed as one of the greatest fighters of all time. So anyway, that fight, of course, is going to be late Saturday night, probably after 10 o'clock. You know how it works in Vegas. But it'll be a long day for Nebraska fans, right? For fans in general, getting up early, going out to Lincoln, going to the game, come home, get your little nap. And then that's what I'm going to do. Get a little nap and then wake up so you can catch the 6:30 games, 7 o'clock games for college football, and then catch Bud fighting late at night out of Vegas. That's our Let Us Fly show. As I mentioned, babysitter problems for Josh Jones, and then we were hoping to have Tory Pittman. Hopefully we can get him later in the season and get him on the show as well. But we appreciate you taking the time, finding us on Spotify, on Apple. Of course, you can also find us on YouTube. And if you do, subscribe and like. Hit that subscribe button, the like button. We'd appreciate that as well. It helps us out a ton. And as a reminder, brought to you by Bud Light. Whether you're watching boxing or baseball or football or whatever you're watching, easy to drink and easy to enjoy. Enjoy the fight. Enjoy the football game. By the way, I picked Nebraska to win 51-3, I believe, is what I picked. 51-3. I don't think it's going to be 68-0. I don't think it's going to be a shutout. 51-3 is what I picked. And I expect by halftime, you're going to have a lot of backups in, and you're going to see a lot of young guys, just like you saw last week, as they all get ready for Michigan. Again, thanks for joining us on the Let It Fly Show. I am Michael Severe. We'll see you next week on Let It Fly Show inside the Let It Fly Sports.